Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Iran's missile reprisal targeting the Israeli air bases and the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv has changed the rules of engagement in West Asia. To establish deterrence again, Israel will now have to respond in a manner that it hasn't done so far in the war. The wide speculation is that Israel, along with the help of the Americans, will target the Iranian oil and gas facilities. Although the Biden administration appears to be a little bit more circumspect over the Israeli plans to target Iran's nuclear facilities. The price of oil is expected to jump to over $100 a barrel if things escalate further. In its response, Tehran has been categorical. If Israel were to target any of its oil and gas and nuclear facilities, then Tel Aviv can expect a similar attack with Iranian missiles on Israel's oil rigs in the Mediterranean and also its Dimona nuclear facility. The United States of America is the only nation to have dropped nuclear bombs in a war. But as things unfold in the Middle East, the spectre of a nuclear war appears to be much closer than we think. Our next report gets you the details. This was the moment when wave after wave of Iranian missiles flew over the Israeli skies. As the sirens blared and the Israelis ran to their bunkers to take cover, there was utter disbelief at what was unfolding. For the second time in the last 6 months, and for the second time since the Israeli state was brought into existence, Iran had fired a cocktail of deadly missiles. Including the Imad, a derivative of the Shahab-3 missile with a range of 1700 kilometers and a warhead weighing 750 kilograms and an accuracy radius of just 10 meters. Another missile that was part of the Iranian attack was the Ghadr 110. Developed in 2016, the Ghadr missile has an operational range of 2000 kilometers with a warhead that weighs an impressive 1000 kilograms and an accuracy radius of 110 meters. But perhaps the most formidable missile deployed by Iran in this attack is its Fateh-1 missile. Unveiled in 2023, Fateh-1 has an operational range of 1400 kilometers with a warhead capability of 450 kilograms and a top speed that is claimed to be 15 Mach, that is 15 times the speed of sound. Besides this, another missile called the Khaybar Shikan was also reportedly used.
Hold on. Okay guys, we gotta get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here.
These missiles, fired from Iran, pierced through the distance to reach the Israeli airspace. Tel Aviv deployed its very expensive and top-notch multi-layered air defense systems, including its much-touted Iron Dome, the David Sling, and the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 air defense systems. Two of America's destroyer naval ships also fired interceptors to bring down the Iranian missiles. The American President Joe Biden, who's backed the Israeli wars in West Asia to the hilt, again reiterated the American commitment to back Israel.
At my direction, the United States military actively supported the defense of Israel, and we're still assessing the impact. But based on what we know now, the attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. And this is testament to Israeli military capability and U.S. military. It's also a testament to intensive planning between the United States and Israel to anticipate and defend against the brazen attack we expected. Make no mistake, the United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Iran has claimed that 90% of its missiles struck their targets in Israel. But Tel Aviv, in its defense, announced that almost all of Iran's missiles had been intercepted. But what really is the truth? 3 major locations were targeted: the Nevatim Air Base, the Tel Nof Air Base, and the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv. Analysis of satellite images points at a pretty complex picture. This is a satellite image of the Nevatim Air Base captured by Planet Labs a day after the missile attack. There are over 30 points where the Iranian missiles have made a direct impact. According to Jeffrey Lewis, professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, less than 50% of the Iranian missiles were reportedly intercepted. In this second satellite image, damage is clearly visible in the aircraft hangars, buildings, taxiways, and one of the runways. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who addressed the Friday sermon after a gap of almost 5 years, said that Israel, because of the sacrifices made by the resistance groups, won't last long.
The focus of the US and its allies on preserving the security of the usurper regime Israel is nothing but a cover for its dissipated policy of seizing the region's natural resources and investing it in major global conflicts. Their aim is to turn this Israel into an energy exporting gate from the region to the West and importing goods and technology from the West to the region.
The Israeli response will be guarded by the level of American involvement. For now though, Israel has continued with its relentless bombardment of the Gaza Strip and Lebanon. More than 2,000 people have been killed in Lebanon in just the last fortnight of Israeli bombings, while more than 1.2 million Lebanese people have been displaced from their homes. For all its loud claims of working tirelessly for a ceasefire, the United States has pumped in billions of dollars of weapons in support of Israel in this conflict. And as the lame duck President Joe Biden prepares to bow out from the White House, these wars are a part of his indelible legacy. Beijing audaciously claimed on Tuesday that its Coast Guard, for the very first time, had entered the waters of the Arctic Ocean. The joint patrol with Russia is not only indicative of enhanced collaboration between the two nations, but is also designed to send a message to Washington, whose maritime activities in the South and East China Seas have for long irked Beijing. The statement came a day after the US Coast Guard claimed to have spotted 4 vessels from the Russian border guard and the Chinese Coast Guard in the Bering Sea. Our next report gets you more details.
Beijing has long harbored Arctic ambitions. Apart from declaring itself a near-Arctic state and beefing up its icebreaker and research capabilities in the region, it has also heavily invested in Russian energy projects. But Russia, which is one of 8 Arctic states, has historically been wary of being too receptive to China, in a region critical to its own security and military power. But the Ukraine war seems to have changed that calculus. In the wake of the Ukraine war, Beijing has emerged as Moscow's most important diplomatic and economic partner. Last year, Chinese Coast Guard and Russia's Federal Security Service, which operates its Coast Guard, agreed to strengthen their maritime law enforcement cooperation. Furthermore, China was extended an invitation to observe Russia's Arctic Patrol 2023 security drills. In July, the US Department of Defense had warned that growing cooperation between Russia and China in the region has the potential to alter the Arctic's stability and threat picture. According to the Chinese Coast Guard, the joint patrol effectively expanded the scope of the Coast Guard's ocean-going navigation and tested their ability to carry out missions in unfamiliar waters. The Chinese Coast Guard, however, did not release the exact location of the patrol, and the CCTV, the Chinese state broadcaster, remained vague, saying the patrol took place a few days ago. Additionally, Moscow has not officially acknowledged the patrol. In July this year, the US and Canadian forces intercepted Russian and Chinese bombers flying together near Alaska for the first time. And according to the US military, their two navies operated together in international waters off the Alaskan coast in 2022 and 2023. Beijing, by extending its Coast Guard into areas the US has traditionally considered its own domain, is sending a strong signal that the US Coast Guard is not the only one that can operate within and near other countries' economic exclusion zones from their own home waters.
The Russian Wagner mercenaries made their first appearance in Africa in 2017 in Sudan. To begin with, they were the deniable face of the Russian operations. But in no time, its enterprises expanded from protecting African coup leaders to gold mining and even fighting the jihadists. In the arid Sahel region, the democratic governments in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger were overthrown in a series of coups since 2020, driven by anger with the corrupt leaders and a near decade long of failed Western efforts in fighting insurgencies that have killed thousands and displaced millions in the Sahel region. Subsequently, the military juntas in these nations kicked out the French and the American troops and also the UN peacekeepers in some instances. But the Russian Wagner mercenaries working for the military juntas have also struggled to contain the separatists and the powerful offshoots of the Islamic State and the Al-Qaeda across the Sahel region. In Mali, the Wagner mercenaries, who first appeared in late 2021, suffered a crushing blow in armed clashes with the Tuareg rebels at the border town of Tinzouarten between the 25th and the 27th of July. The rebels claim to have killed at least 84 Russian mercenaries, along with 47 Malians. So the obvious question is this: are the Russian mercenaries proving to be just as ineffective as the French troops were in fighting the jihadist insurgency in Mali? Our next report gets you the details.
The fate of the Russian Wagner Group rose and fell in a spectacular fashion last year. The crowning glory came in the month of May, when the group led Russia to its first significant Ukrainian battlefield victory in almost a year, with the capture of Bakhmut. The group's founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, labeled the siege of Bakhmut a meat grinder. But the increasingly belligerent Yevgeny Prigozhin's criticism of Russian military leaders and effort to lead a rebellion weeks later ended with his death in a fiery plane crash in August. Prigozhin's death proved to be a turning point for the group. After Prigozhin's death, Wagner employees were invited to join the Russian Ministry of Defense's newly created Africa Corps to fight for justice and the interest of Russia. But the Mali defeat has raised doubts about Wagner's ability to fare better than the Western forces recently expelled by the juntas.
Well, it was the biggest defeat that Wagner suffered in Africa, and actually the biggest defeat it suffered beyond Ukraine after Syrian defeat a few years back. So it was highly unexpected by Russians because they considered that this is a more or less safe operation. They were still under impression that they are that it's an easy fight. They captured Kidal, the northern town in Mali, last year in November with no fight actually. So they underestimated the quality of Tuareg fighters that they were facing.
Though the Wagner Group acknowledged heavy losses in the Mali ambush, they gave no figure. Wagner also remains secretive about its recruitment figures, though experts are of the opinion that around 6,000 Russian mercenaries serve in Africa, with recruitment drives targeting numbers anywhere between 20 and 40,000. Interestingly, a posting in Africa is being advertised as a holiday experience.
This new recruitment drive for Africa Corps, which was about to grow into 20,000 or even 40,000 of military personnel, meant that there will be a massive recruitment for Africa, and that created this feeling that that this is the best opportunity that mercenaries have to be on the safe side, to earn some money, and also to experience this tropical adventure. It might be ironic, but it seems like it's a holiday type of experience.
Reportedly, after the formation of Africa Corps, the Russian mercenary activity soared in Mali. Not just that, violent events linked to Russian mercenaries rose 81%, and reported civilian fatalities rose 65% over the past year, as compared to the year before Prigozin's death. But the recent setback and the reported claims of Tuareg rebels preparing for further clashes doesn't bode well for the Wagner group in Mali.
One of the poorest countries in the world, the Caribbean nation of Haiti, has been plunged into anarchy. Criminal gangs have taken over the capital city of Port-au-Prince, and the security and health systems are on the verge of collapse. As gang violence ravages the country, the humanitarian situation has continued on a downward spiral. Over half of Haiti's population is in the grip of acute hunger, and this year alone, more than 3,600 people have been killed in instances of gang violence. On Monday, the UNSC unanimously agreed to authorize for another year an international security force to help fight the armed gangs in Haiti. And on Wednesday, the United Nations said that more than 700,000 people have now been displaced from their homes in Haiti, more than half of whom are said to be young children. And on the same day, the neighboring nation of Dominican Republic announced its plan of deporting about 10,000 undocumented Haitian migrants per week and to facilitate the voluntary return of others. The very next day, Grand Griffe, one of Haiti's cruelest criminal gangs, attacked a small town in central Haiti, killing more than 70 people, including children, and injuring more than 50 others. Our next report gets you the details.
The Caribbean nation of Haiti increasingly resembles a state veritably out of action. Security situation in the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere has nosedived since the assassination of former President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021 and is today comparable to countries at war. A staggering 200 gangs operate with impunity in the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area. Violent crimes such as kidnapping for ransom, armed robbery and carjackings are disturbingly common. Killings and rape have been used as brutal tactics to sow terror in communities. According to the United Nations International Organization for Migration Agency, by early September, some 702,973 people were internally displaced due to rampant gang violence, an increase of 22% since June. Around 75% of the displaced are now sheltering in the country's provinces, and the rest of them are in the capital, where the situation remains precarious. With little to no access to basic services, the displaced find themselves living in overcrowded sites.
This is hell. This is it. I live it here. Growing up, I used to hear that hell and heaven exist. Well, I'm living hell in Haiti today.
83% of the displaced people are being hosted by other families, majority of whom have reported significant difficulties, including food shortages, overwhelmed healthcare facilities, and a lack of essential supplies on local markets. Approximately 5.4 million people out of the island's total population of over 11 million are struggling to feed themselves and their families. marking one of the highest rates of acute food insecurity globally.
The state must continue to do everything it can with the support of the international community to solve the issue of safety. But the famine that is looming over children and poor families means that we at the international level must act quickly. And to act quickly means now. We must bring assistance and food quickly to all those who need it.
On Monday, the UN Security Council passed a resolution to extend the mandate of multinational security support mission to Haiti. The United States and Ecuador had asked for a plan to elevate the security mission into a formal UN peacekeeping operation. But China objected, saying the environment in Haiti is not conducive to that.
Peacekeeping operations are not a panacea, let alone a backup. What's more, Haiti does not have the conditions for the deployment of peacekeeping operations right now. Haiti has long been mired in multiple crises, and if there's no legitimate, effective and accountable government, it is difficult for any external support to have a lasting effect.
Haiti's interim government is of the opinion that a peacekeeping mission is necessary and that the current MSS mission has significant limitations, with lacking of financial support from member states being the major headache. The limited success of MSS has also caused a massive repatriation of Haitians residing illegally in the neighboring Dominican Republic. Lest we forget, Haiti is placed rather precariously and urgently needs the international community to step up its support.
And with that's the wrap on this edition of World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the ID that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.